Welcome to part 2 of the 2018 NFL Draft in Review. The second team on the block is going to be the Buffalo Bills, and obviously that means the first pick to look at is the number 7 selection of the 2018 NFL Draft, quarterback Josh Allen. And, well, really, what can I say that has not already been said? The guy is a absolutely phenomenal quarterback. He is very mobile, very good arm strength, and he's developed his accuracy to a point where he basically blossomed from a guy that pretty much everyone was calling for the head of to now a general MVP candidate that has the Bills in Super Bowl contention for the first time since the early 1990s. So, with this video, there's actually going to be some highlights this time, so let's dive on in and look at Josh Allen.
Good spot, left knee was down. It's where the ball is when the knee comes down. Knee just a little bit, and Allen will boot, and he'll flip it wide open. The man who scored all the touchdowns in the playoffs, Gabe Davis.
I watched this game live. The
Buffalo.
Rams, I honestly don't know how they lost this game. When you get that many turnovers, you should not get blown out the way they did.
What a start to the season for the Bills.
You have to sell it. You have to make them believe for this to work over here. They have to believe it's a run. They sold it beautifully. Wide open. Gabe Davis right down the field picking up.
First and goal. Bills driving for the lead, and Allen throws. Touchdown inside. Isaiah McKenzie.
You got little hints of that in his first 2 years. Very little brief flashes of what he could have been. That's why, even though I didn't originally like the selection,
3rd and 7 to start.
I knew that he could be this guy.
And Allen hangs it, throws it deep. Davis is open. Gabe
There
Davis
you just
put it
see
in to the
the
6-yard
ridiculous
line.
arm strength,
Davis
just
sets up
casually
first
chucking
and goal.
it 40 yards
Great
downfield.
play by Jalen Ramsey, too.
You got it. 3rd and goal. Allen keeps it.
And then the
Pumps,
problem the
runs,
Patriots have
breaks
with
the
him
play.
of
Touchdown,
if he
Buffalo.
doesn't see anything, he
Josh
will
Allen
run,
took
and
care
good
of it
luck
himself.
tackling him. It is painful the things this man has done to us with his legs.
3rd and 4. Allen stepping up. And now floating it downfield, and Diggs is behind the secondary.
There you see a little bit of the Patrick Mahomes effect. More and more
Buffalo
quarterbacks are
touchdown.
coming in the league that can just do that. Roll left or right, throw off the back
On
foot,
the
and just
outside, that's Jalen
precision
Ramsey, and I
dot
think he
from
was
50
expecting,
yards.
this is called a quarters coverage. I think he was going to expect
No,
some help on
I
the
do
inside
believe
safety
the
and just
whole
simply let
this is the
Diggs go
death of the
right
pocket
by him.
quarterback thing. That's
First
just a
down
load of
10.
bullshit. The pocket quarterback ain't going anywhere. We've seen it be threatened by the mobile quarterback a lot of times before.
The fullback trying to make some people miss. Down the sideline, end zone, touchdown Buffalo. It's Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, for the score.
You see how Kevin Byard just basically pulled up and just tackled him 10, 15, 20 years ago? That would have been one of those shots that's going one of those highlights.
Deep shot, Allen. From Kumaro, he's got it. 4th down and 1. Fake to Moss. Allen wants to throw across his body. It's caught. Stephon Diggs for the touchdown.
Yeah, I think that pretty well sums it up. This guy is just... He's an absurd quarterback. I honestly believe the Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl eventually. It probably should have already happened, but the Bills do have a couple noticeable weaknesses in the team that it just undoes them when they come against a team that is just that little bit better built, like the Chiefs and apparently now the Bengals. So, like I said, it is a great pick. I see Josh Allen going in the Hall of Fame someday. Call it premature if you would like to, but that's the way I see it. Next up, we have Tremaine Edmunds, and this is another pretty solid selection. This says, at least, that he originally was drafted as an outside linebacker. He generally plays the middle now, and I guess there's some small element that thinks this is somehow a failure, even though if we go over here and bring up Tremaine Edmunds' stat sheet, just look at the tackles, 100 every year of his career. It's been getting lower and lower every season, so I'm sure that a lot of people would probably like to see that, go back up, but the general rule there is he has missed a couple of games basically every season of his career, so that I will credit to that more than a lack of ability. And now we'll go over here and take a look at just what he does inside the Bills' defense. That really makes me wish that the Patriots had a linebacker with the capability to do the things that he does. Sorry to the middle of that defense, but you've kind of been letting me down.
Most of you have already
20
drawn
years
your
now.
conclusions on Tremaine Edmunds, the 23-year-old Mike linebacker of the Buffalo Bills. The expectations for the highly drafted, insanely gifted linebacker were sky high, and I know that is closely tied to your conclusions. So I'm not here to convince you otherwise. What I'm going to do in this video is show you the value that the talented linebacker brings to Leslie Frazier's defense.
Just
The Mike
eyes watch
linebacker
number
spot,
49
crafted
there.
by linebackers coach Bob Babich, is one that funnels plays to Edmunds. Milano and others are the aggressors, the downhill players who create chaos and make plays behind the line of scrimmage, the splash plays. Edmunds, on the other hand, is asked to leverage his gap, maintain his gap integrity, and cast his wide net to wrap up and finish plays in the box. He isn't asked to be a downhill player, because that's not who he is, and the team knows it. But it's also because the linebacker positions are tasked with a lot versus the run and versus the pass. Generally, Edmunds is usually one of 6 defenders in the box on any given play. Because the Bills have 6 or less men in the box 63% of the plays this year, the 9th highest percentage in the league. So stopping the run is even more difficult for the Bills defenders, simply from a numbers standpoint.
And I do agree with this, because there have been quite a lot of times where I've seen the Bills defense give up these running plays that I just don't really know how they managed to give that up. Quite a few runners that I don't regard as particularly impressive. Patriots, Damian Harris among them, when he ripped off that massive touchdown in that just miserable condition game that we won. About a month or two before they dropped 7 touchdowns on us.
Offenses generally have the numbers advantage.
Retaliation.
When the Bills have 6 defenders or less in the box, Edmunds has an average tackle depth of 1.3 yards, which ties him with Fred Warner and Devin Bush, and puts him just ahead of Roquan Smith. The young linebacker is a commander prior to the snap.
When you're keeping up with linebackers like that in terms of how well you're wrapping up tackles, then you're a good player. It's like, just come on, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith.
He routinely sets a defensive front, makes sure that the defensive linemen are lined up correctly, or communicates the coverages with the secondary. We see his chase and tackle abilities shine when the ball hits or bounces out wide. Generally, he'll be stacked in an A gap, but as soon as the ball bounces
This is something
out wide,
I liked
the team
of him
counts on
coming
him
out
to
of
minimize the
college,
game.
his pursuit and
His length
ability
is
to
an asset
find
to his
the
tackling
football.
radius, but it also allows him to
This
shrink passing lanes.
is a talent that I
suffocate
look
passing lanes
for
the closer to the
basically
line
in
of scrimmage
every
he is.
position
That's
on
why
defense.
he leads the league in batted
the
passes.
ability to
The Bills rely
find
on
the ball,
Edmunds' length and
pursue
range
and catch
because
the
it is
ball
at the core of
carrier
their
if
defensive
need be.
strategy. He is
And,
crucial to the Bills' ability to
just
defend the middle of the
aware
field.
on your feet.
How so?
Bang, bang.
Let's dive in. The Bills play a heavy dose of 2 high safety coverages to the tune of 66%, the 6th highest frequency in the NFL. That means when those calls are being made, Edmunds, Milano, and Johnson are routinely asked to cover a lot of area underneath. They are routinely stressed horizontally and vertically, and have held up their end of the bargain this year. Edmunds has the range to quickly get to the depth in his drop and not allow a receiver to get behind him, but he also has the size and speed to carry tight ends and receivers down the field. When the Bills drop into zone coverage, something they do 58% of the time, Edmunds is once again asked to choke routes and take away targets over the middle, the biggest area of the field. And this isn't just in the short and intermediate area.
that actually kind of does clue me into a little bit of why the Bills have struggled on defense with teams like the Chiefs. I've watched, 15 plus years of Tom Brady just dicing zone coverage like it's nothing. It isn't a bygone relic as far as the defense goes, but it's definitely situational football. You can't just run zone defense and expect everything to be okay. Quarterbacks are too good. Tight ends are too good. Receivers are too good. You have to man up, jam these guys up, contest catches. You can't just be hoping that the quarterback throws the ball into the wrong part of the damn field anymore. This isn't that league anymore. There are no quarterbacks that are going to be consistently putting up games where they're under 55% accuracy. You're not going to see the just horrific passes by some random-ass guy like Brad Johnson or Trent Dilfer. It's just, unless it's a backup, but even then, you're probably looking at a third string because there's quite a few backups in the NFL that aren't that bad either. There's probably quite a number of guys that you could probably put in another 4 to 8 teams and still find starting quarterbacks pretty easily.
Yes. He rarely gets credit for eliminating options for quarterbacks in zone coverage and how that can affect a play because there aren't many stats to show for it. Look at how he takes away the quick pass, gets Ben to hold on to the ball, allowing the pass rush to get home. What about this play on Poyer's interception? He jumps the route in the hook to curl area and forced Heineke to move on in his progressions. Heineke moves all the way across the field and completes the pass to Jordan Poyer. Let's add some more context to the Edmonds conversation. The Bills have only allowed 463 yards over the middle this season, the third fewest in the NFL. Over the middle of the field, opposing quarterbacks have a quarterback rating of 50.9, an average yards per attempt of 5.2, and have thrown 6 interceptions, all of which are number 1 in the NFL. The Bills are routinely eliminating plays over the middle, thanks to Edmonds and others' athleticism and tackling. This allows the secondary to shut down big plays down the field. Leslie Frazier rushes for 86% of the snaps, number 1 in the league, and plays a lot of too high zone coverages. Coverages like cover 4 and Tampa 2 in order to minimize explosive plays. And they have done.
I like that he mentions eliminating explosive plays against the Chiefs, who the Bills famously cannot seem to cover once it comes to the fourth quarter. But overall, this all shows that Tremaine Edmonds is absolutely a critical part of the Bills' defense. If he were to get injured, I would expect the Bills' defense would be substantially worse in a pretty good number of categories. So, on to the next pick, defensive tackle Harrison Phillips. Now, Harrison Phillips has only recently really started to crack the starting lineup of a team, and this was with the Vikings. He's no longer with the Bills in this past season. And, well, I do credit the stat line. A defensive lineman I will usually see maybe in that 40 tackle bracket, but at the same time, I kind of look at the enhanced stat line there as more of the Vikings defense is utter shit. And so Phillips finds himself having to do more than he realistically probably should be. So we'll now move over here and take a look.
Short yardage against the Detroit Lions. You're going to see Harrison Phillips right here line up on the hash mark. And as the ball is snapped, the first thing you see is the big double team. And when you get double teamed as a defensive lineman, if you can hold your ground, it is a win. And you'll see Phillips. And Phillips has a really good feel for the running game in that he feels that gap open up inside of him, crosses face of the guard, gets up in there, and makes the tackle. So a great job holding the point and a great job of making a stop in a short yardage situation. Now, I think this play just shows you the art of being a defensive lineman and how it's all about pad level, leverage, hand placement, all those things.
Yep.
You'll see Phillips lined up at the 3 technique, and at the snap of the ball, the guard engages him. And what you'll notice is he lowers his pad level, gets down below, and gets that left arm right in the chest of that offensive tackle, because one arm is always longer than two, feels the gap on the inside, and then is strong enough to cross face, come on in, and make the tackle. So in these cases, he's not just holding his gap. He's holding his gap and then making the tackle. So we see him at the point of attack. How does he play other blocks? Well, in this case, you're going to see what we call the choke block in the business, where the center blocks back and the guard pulls across the face of the nose tackle. He sees that guard pull. He knows where this play wants to go, so the best thing he can do is hold that point. So he pushes that center and actually fills the gap with the center's body. So you can either fill it with yourself or fill it with the offensive lineman. In this case, he collapses the center, so the running back has nowhere to go but cut back right into Harrison Phillips' arm. No gain on that play. So the other type of block that you're going to see a lot at nose tackle or three technique is the backside cutoff. It's a zone running league. And in this case, you'll see the tackle's working to get his head across and cut him off. And he gets about head up, but you notice that Phillips, right when he makes contact with the running back, this is a hold. That tackle has him by the shoulder, but he's strong enough to withstand the hold and bring down the running back with one arm. So very stout up front, very good job by him on that play. Okay, another example. This case, he's at the three technique again. The tackle just isn't quick enough to get underneath, and Phillips is able to maintain his leverage in that gap. The lineman also, he gets that hand right in that face mask, but Phillips fights through that, plays parallel down the line of scrimmage, and brings the running back down, gets the ball loose at the end. Wonderful.
Like I say, it's going back to his stat line here. Like I said, it looks a lot to me that part of that is the Vikings just not being able to get off the field. Saw it a lot of times this past season. I think that we can all pretty much agree the Vikings should absolutely not have been 13-4, but this is one of those players that's why I say the Vikings are very close. They don't need very much. They just need, largely better defensive coordinator to get the working parts working together in a way that doesn't just let any team walk into the Vikings' place and tell Kirk Cousins to keep up. And in fairness, Kirk Cousins does a 50-50 job of that, I say, but I fully believe in team structure. If there is a flaw in the structure of your team, it does not matter how good your quarterback is. Kirk Cousins could probably win you a Super Bowl if you just put the pieces together correctly. It's all about assembly of the team, and teams like the Raiders and Vikings have been screwing that up for most of my lifetime, so we'll see if they can fix that and get on track, but you know me, I don't really think that some teams are going to manage to do that because they just have a history of not doing that. Next up, we have cornerback Taron Johnson, and this is another pick where I didn't think too highly of it, but that's because the college he went to, Weber State, there are certain programs in this country that trying to find any substantial game film to watch, whether it's actual breakdown of the player or just a highlight reel, which is usually what I watch. This was one of the first guys that I was barely able to find anything on, and it just threw me off, so I wasn't really clued into a guy who's pretty much been one of the primary starters in this Bills defense. Though there are a few things in that stat line that I say could be a little bit better. Obviously, you would like one of your starting corners to be picking off more than one pass a season. Yeah, it's like he has this reputation for being a very good return guy, but I've seen more of that in the playoffs than in the regular season. So we'll go over here and take a look at what is available to Teron Johnson. Let me see if I can identify where exactly it is.
273, but he threw a pick. Back the other way from Buffalo. Taron Johnson will score.
Yep,
Touchdown Bills.
Part of the last few swan songs of Ben Roethlisberger. I saw that face on Ben's face so many times through his career, always satisfying. Doesn't matter what team it's against. It's sweeter against the Patriots, but, you know.
Taron Johnson saw it all the way. He knew exactly what was coming. Watch him. He's going to be staring right back here at Ben Roethlisberger. He knows how quickly the ball's coming out. Juju's right over.
Yep, just undercut the route and gone.
Bingo. There he goes. The kind of play the Buffalo
And I would say the failure to run him down is part of why
Bills
Juju's not in Pittsburgh anymore.
If you're a Buffalo fan, 3rd down and goal. Justice Hill is in the backfield, flanking Jackson. Stays in the block. Jackson fires, and that will be intercepted in the end zone by Johnson. Taron Johnson.
This kid's fast. That isn't just some random quarterback. I'm pretty sure that's Lamar Jackson. If you can outrun Lamar, you're fast.
Johnson had a pick 6 against Roethlisberger in one of the Pittsburgh games this year. And what a play on a 3rd and goal.
just going to drop back, and you just simply don't see that underneath player. But that's not the story of that.
Like I said, that was the kind of the flash play that you want to see a bit more than once or twice a season. That doesn't necessarily have to be a touchdown, you know, come on. Pick 6 more than once a year, that's great for anybody. It'll probably much put you in the decoy conversation no matter what you do. But I can't find too much else besides those two plays. And I kind of look at the tackle numbers versus what I've seen of the Bills' secondary when pressed by elite receivers. And I see Teron Johnson's value, but I also see that it's one of the weak points within the Bills' defense. It doesn't help they had injuries this year, obviously, but yeah, someone's got to step up on defense because you're just not going to beat teams like the Chiefs and Bengals with any regularity if you're just playing keep up with them. That is a game that you will not win. The Bengals were trying to play that game with the Chiefs, and, well, look what just happened. Their luck on that finally ran out. So, on to the next selection, number 166, the 5th round. This is one of those players that the Bills kind of missed on. They only kept him for his rookie year. Traded him off to the Browns in 2019. He's been there ever since. Game started and played 66 versus 59. You know, he has made a difference for the Browns. Not a massive difference, because at the end of the day, the only reason Baker Mayfield isn't still in a Browns jersey is because that offensive line's a injury-prone joke in my eyes. But here's a bit of Wyatt Teller.
Okay, so Wyatt did that all season. Wyatt Teller's tastiest pancake came in the 2020 divisional game against the Chiefs.
I'm
fellow
not the
top
best
100 player, Tyrann Mathieu.
But it is
To
fun
be
to
honest,
watch
it all
them just
happened so fast.
plop
I was not
on one of
expecting
these
that. At least not that
pass
quick. I
rushers.
knew, obviously, before the game and just studying film, they love to pull him and Treader.
That's why
I
could
tried
never
to stop
play
or get out the way. I don't know what I tried to do,
don't
but
want
I
to
tried to
end up with
avoid
guys
him,
300
but I
pounds
couldn't.
sitting at me.
And yeah, I felt it. Absolutely.
Hey, man! 77 just put me on my ass!
Teller's been stacking flapjacks ever since.
Chubb sweeping left. What a block by Teller. That was like the movie The Blind Side when he put the kid into the trash can.
Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller with the big block as the pulling guard.
Wyatt Teller, I watched him in the first game. He beat the crap out of our guys.
And you'll see big 77 come around the corner, seal the edge. Teller
Just imagine being a defensive guy and you're the one being tackled.
Watch Teller. Get out of here, Bates. Sit out.
Whoa, that's just gotta be one of those.
All my wife's friends make the joke, if you don't open up a pancake house after football, you're crazy.
So, this guy should continue to be a pretty big piece of the Browns offensive line, even if the rest of the unit around him tends to imitate a leaky rowboat. As Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson were, I think, somewhere in the top 15 most sacked quarterbacks through this season. It is what it is. Next up, we have Ray McCloud, and, well, McCloud hasn't really been the most flashy receiver. Well, look at the return yards. 3,366 over 5 years. That's not unimpressive. The 49, I'm not sure how the 49ers are using him. I believe I recall seeing him on kick return duty, but I don't watch a ton of 49ers games, so I can't be sure, but that's about where you should draft a kick return type of talent, 6th round. And over the years, we will come to some teams that defied that rule, and my general disdain for the idea that someone who can pretty much only return a kick should be drafted high as if he's a good receiver. It doesn't happen very often, but a few teams still insist on annoying me with that kind of bullshit. And the final pick, receiver Austin Proehl. Yeah, this is pretty much your average 7th round. Pick it and forget it. He didn't make it through his first season with the Bills. I'm not even really sure, considering he was waived on September 1st to be made to the start of the season with the Bills. And the Titans pretty much immediately said, no. But at the very least, he looks like he's going to have something of a chance in the XFL, provided that it actually stays on its feet a little longer than it did last time. But selected in the 11th round of the XFL Skills Player Draft. I don't really know how long the rounds are in the XFL, but that still sounds like it equals out to like 5th round to me. So we might see a little bit of him in something else, but as far as actually getting on a roster in the NFL beyond that of a practice squad, I mean, just look at all the asterisks next to the NFL teams. He's never managed it. I don't really think he's going to, unless it's for a team that's absolutely starved for receivers. So, in essence, when I originally did this draft, I gave it a C+. I was not impressed. Josh Allen looked like a quarterback that probably could have gone in the 4th round. I didn't see what made him number 7 overall whatsoever. And if you redraft this, he's either going number 1 or number 2 behind Lamar Jackson. And considering Lamar's troubles with his health and his inability to win playoff games, if you're actually putting Lamar Jackson above Josh Allen, then quite frankly, I don't think you're in any position to say what player is better than another. The rest of this draft just didn't look very good, and admittedly, 2 of the good players of this class aren't even with the Bills anymore. So I would definitely say that this class has probably gone up to an A+ for me. Largely carried by Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmonds, but Harrison Phillips, Teron Johnson, Siran Neal, Wyatt Teller, they all had value. Ray McCloud's a good special teams guy. Really, the Bills probably could have stood to keep pretty much every player from this class except for Proehl. So this is just a very good class by the Buffalo Bills, just as with the Patriots class from this year shows you kind of why the Patriots have tapered off. They're a fringe wild card team now. This class is a pretty good study and part of why the Bills have now risen to now hold the crown of the AFC East and are Super Bowl contenders, but they do still need to address a position or two, or they're effectively going to be where the Steelers were for so many years, playing third fiddle to the top two teams in the AFC. And despite being a Patriots fan, I don't hate the Bills, so I really don't want to see the Bills stuck as the third wheel. They're not a franchise that deserves that sort of thing. Their fans have suffered enough. So that's overall my thoughts on this draft. So be sure to subscribe, like the video, ring the bell if you're actually enthused with what you're seeing here, and I will see you tomorrow for the team that finished third place in this division in 2017. I'm not quite sure who that was. Let me see here. I'm going to try to find it real quick. 2017 NFL season. That was the Miami Dolphins. We'll be doing the Dolphins tomorrow night. So, until then.